Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most astonishing, captivating, and almost unbelievable stories in the entire world of rare coins. A story that blends history, mystery, minting anomalies, collector passion, and the endless fascination people have with the possibility that something as ordinary as a pocket change coin could secretly be worth a fortune. And today we are exploring the mesmerizing tale of the 1977 quarter dollar that some believe could reach an astonishing value of up to $16 million dollars because of certain errors, mistakes, striking anomalies, and rare circumstances that elevate this coin far beyond its face value and turn it into an object of speculation, obsession, and endless curiosity. And as we embark on this long journey together, we will unravel layer after layer of the fascinating possibilities surrounding the 1977 quarter, discussing how certain minting mishaps, such as off-center strikes, double dies, overstrikes, transitional planchets, partial collar strikes, wrong metal compositions, misaligned dies, die cracks, filled dies, struck through debris errors, clipped planchets, reeded edge anomalies, and countless other oddities could transform this seemingly ordinary Washington quarter into a legendary prize for collectors who are always searching for that one in a billion coin that defies expectations and rewrites the entire concept of rarity. And as we immerse ourselves in the intricate world of mint, processes from the moment blank planchets are cut and fed into presses to the exact instant, when the obverse die meets the reverse die under tons of pressure, we begin to understand how even the tiniest deviation from the intended procedure can result in extraordinary pieces that collectors worldwide treasure and sometimes pay unbelievable amounts for. And the idea that a 1977 quarter might be worth $16 million dollars stems from the combination of incredibly rare possibilities that collectors fantasize about, such as the chance that a quarter from this year might have been struck on a 40% silver planchet leftover from previous years, or perhaps a copper-nickel-clad coin was accidentally created using a transition metal mix that was never meant for circulation. Or maybe one coin out there bears a dramatic double die obverse, so sharp and unusual that it creates a mesmerizing doubling effect on the date, the lettering, or the portrait of George Washington itself, drawing collectors into scientific analysis to determine how such an intense doubling could have occurred. And then there's the possibility of a major offsetter strike so drastic that part of the design is completely missing while the rest remains perfectly clear, a type of error that becomes exponentially more valuable when combined with a full, readable date, which in this hypothetical scenario is 1977, turning the coin into a jaw-dropping rarity that only a handful of people on the planet might ever get to see. And another intriguing possibility is a dramatic overstrike, in which a 1977 design was accidentally struck on top of another denomination's planchet, such as a dime, cent, or even a foreign coin planchet accidentally mixed into the production line at the Philadelphia Mint. And such errors are the holy grail of coin collectors because they demonstrate a real physical contradiction in standard minting procedures and prove that even with modern systems, mistakes can happen in bizarre and unpredictable ways, leading to coins that become museum-worthy treasures. And when we go even deeper into the world of coin errors, we find the mystique of struck-through errors where foreign materials like wire, grease, cloth fibers, metal shavings, or even tiny fragments of tools might have gotten stuck between the dies and the planchet during striking, producing one-of-a-kind impressions that sometimes leave ghost-like shapes or missing areas on the coin's surface. And then we explore die cracks that resemble lightning bolts cutting across the fields and devices of the coin, die breaks that create raised blobs known as cud errors that collectors adore, or die polish lines that alter the reflective qualities of the surface in striking ways. And each of these possibilities adds another layer of intrigue to the legend of the 1977 quarter that some imagine could reach the jaw-dropping sum of $16 million dollars if all of the right conditions aligned. And even though the typical 1977 quarter is extremely common, with millions minted and circulated widely across the United States, the concept of a multi-million dollar 1977 quarter fuels the imagination of collectors because the minting process is never fully immune to surprises, and the world of numismatics has countless examples of coins previously dismissed as ordinary until a sharp-eyed collector discovered a subtle anomaly that transformed an ignored coin into a prized masterpiece. And the idea that such a coin might still be hiding unknown in a forgotten drawer, tucked into a jar of change, embedded in the lining of an old coat, or unintentionally preserved in a childhood coin collection sparks excitement because everyone wants to believe in the possibility that treasure can still be found in everyday life. And when we think about the process in which blank metal discs are fed into high-speed presses equipped with upper and lower dies that imprint the designs on both sides of the coin, simultaneously, it becomes clear that the enormous number of coins produced leaves room for tiny calibration errors that might go unnoticed for a short period, resulting in a small batch of coins possessing irregularities that can later command astonishing prices in the collector market. And among the rarest types of errors that people speculate about for the 1977 quarter is the existence of transitional planchets, meaning that a coin intended for 1 year was accidentally struck using leftover planchets from a previous year's metal composition, a situation most famously associated with the 1943 copper cent and the 1974 aluminum cent, but which remains the dream scenario for any coin year, including 1977. And in the minds of collectors, a 1977 quarter struck on a leftover silver planchet would ignite unimaginable bidding wars because it would represent a physical relic of a minting glitch that should have been impossible, but somehow, through a strange twist of circumstances, occurred. Anyway, and then we consider misaligned dies, which can cause parts of the design to shift slightly or dramatically off their intended placement, producing Washington portraits tilted at angles, dates pushed too close to the rim, or reverse designs skewed in ways that mesmerize collectors who seek dramatic visual anomalies. And we also examine coins struck out of collar, meaning the rim never forms properly, resulting in a wider, flatter, more irregular shape that instantly signals something unusual happened during striking. And when error types begin to overlap, such as a double die struck out of collar with a die crack running across the portrait and a filled die causing missing details in the lettering, the imagined value skyrockets even further because multi-error coins are exponentially rarer and create a visual narrative of chaos in the minting process. And imagining a 1977 quarter with all these features simultaneously is exactly the kind of scenario that leads enthusiasts to suggest values in the tens of millions because a one-of-a-kind coin in pristine condition can reach mythic levels of desirability. And then there is the human element of numismatics because collectors are driven not only by rarity, but by the stories behind these pieces, stories of accidental survival, improbable discovery, and the thrill of realizing that a tiny object lost to history has resurfaced to challenge everything we thought we knew about minting events of that period in a market. Behaves not only on intrinsic rarity, but also on narrative, excitement, cultural fascination, and the willingness of collectors to push bidding further and further until a coin reaches an iconic status. And when we look at past record-breaking sales, we see how passion can elevate a rare coin to astronomical levels, even if the initial value was pennies. In the case of the 1977 quarter, the idea of a $16 million valuation becomes a symbol of the boundless possibilities within a hobby that rewards observation, patience, and the dream that a tiny overlooked detail might unlock life-changing value. The next 1978 quarter-dollar USA coin a day as we dive into another incredible story from the world of rare coins and unbelievable numismatic discoveries that continue to shock collectors, experts, and everyday people who suddenly find out that something ordinary sitting in their pocket change might actually be worth life-changing money. And today we're exploring the astonishing tale of a 1978 quarter dollar that has been claimed in collector circles to have reached a staggering theoretical value of up to $16 million because of a combination of bizarre minting errors, unexpected striking conditions, mechanical failures, die deterioration, planchet defects, transitional anomalies, experimental metal mixture possibilities, and all the mysterious circumstances surrounding how certain coins escape the U.S. Mint with extremely rare flaws that should not exist according to standard minting procedures, but somehow do, creating the kinds of once-in-a-lifetime rarities that collectors chase for decades. And as we break down this legendary 1978 quarter, we're going deep into every error, oddity, and hypothetical minting mistake that enthusiasts believe could contribute to such an extreme value, starting with the idea that a 1978 quarter, normally a copper nickel clad coin with no special varieties or limited editions that year, could become valuable only if something dramatically unusual happened during its production. And one of the most talked about possibilities is the notion that some 1978 quarters might have been struck on the wrong metal planchets, such as leftover silver planchets from previous decades or foreign planchets meant for international coins struck at U.S. facilities. And while no confirmed silver 1978 quarter has ever been recorded, collectors speculate about the possibility because the mint has a long history of accidental leftover planchets being struck years later, creating unexpected off-metal errors that become priceless. And if a genuine 1978 quarter were discovered on a 90% silver planchet or even a rare transitional test planchet with a slightly different alloy composition, that alone could push its value into astronomical territory. But the story doesn't end there, because the next major factor contributing to the rumor high value is the idea of double-struck errors, off-center strikes, and extreme die clashes, especially ones that create ghost-like impressions of design elements in places they should never appear, such as Washington's bust overlapping the word liberty, or the eagle on the reverse appearing faintly across the obverse due to violent die collision. And collectors know that certain dramatic errors, when perfectly preserved and visually stunning, can become trophy coins worth millions. And if a 1978 quarter displayed a massive multi-strike error where the coin rotated between strikes, shifting the design several degrees each time, it would create a hypnotic layered pattern that advanced. Collectors treat as artwork created accidentally by the minting machinery itself, making such a coin more than a rare collectible, but a numismatic masterpiece. Yet another factor involves die breaks and retained cuts, where pieces of the die literally crack or fall off during production, leaving raised blobs or missing sections of the design on the finished coin in extremely rare cases. These breaks can form dramatic shapes that draw enormous attention, like cracks that look like lightning, bolts across Washington's face, or cuts that nearly erase entire sections of lettering. And the bigger and more unusual the break, the more a coin's value skyrockets, especially if the coin is also perfectly centered, well struck, and in high mint state condition, which is nearly impossible for heavily errored coins because the striking failure often leads to lower detail or uneven surfaces, making pristine examples unbelievably rare. And the 1978 quarter in the center of this legend is often described in collector discussions as having a combination of off-metal composition, double strike rotation, dramatic die break across the date, and even a partial collar strike where the edge reading is distorted, creating a coin that looks more like a prototype or experimental mint test than an accidental production error. And one of the most interesting theories numismatists love to explore is the possibility that some 1978 quarters may have been struck using improperly prepared dies from earlier years, such as leftover dies from 1976 bicentennial production that were mistakenly retooled or partially ground down, causing faint remnants of the dual date 1776 to 1976 or the drummer boy design to appear underneath the 1978 details. And though no verified specimen like this has ever surfaced, the idea persists because the mint historically reused dies or altered them instead of discarding them, especially when budgets were tight or when small shortages occurred in die production, making the possibility of transitional die traces something collectors always look for. And if a 1978 quarter truly showed underlying bicentennial imagery, even subtly, it would unquestionably become one of the most important mint errors in U.S. coinage history and could realistically reach record-breaking values at auction. Another rare concept involving extreme value is the idea of a broad strike combined with a flip-over double strike, meaning the coin was struck once without the collar, spreading outward, then flipped during ejection failure, and struck again on the opposite side, creating a distorted but mesmerizing mirrored image effect. And examples of flip-over double strikes are extremely sought after, with some selling for tens of thousands even on modern coins. So if one occurred on a 1978 quarter in perfectly preserved shape with additional errors layered on top, its value would compound significantly. But we also have to consider planchet lamination errors where impurities or incomplete bonding cause layers of the metal to peel or bubble. And while lamination alone doesn't create million-dollar coins, a lamination error combined with multiple other high-value errors could turn the coin into a one-of-a-kind anomaly, the sort of piece that advanced collectors fight over because no second example exists anywhere in the world, making the price dependent solely on bidding competition. And there are also rumors in collector forums about the possibility of a 1978 quarter struck with experimental chromium-treated dies meant to extend die life, leaving unusually reflective or frosty textures unlike anything typical for circulation coins. And if such a coin survived in pristine condition with a combination of errors, it would be considered not just a mint mistake, but a technological artifact of minting research, further raising its desirability. And then we dive into the world of misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse do not line up properly, with rotational misalignments sometimes reaching dramatic degrees. And if such an error is paired with an off-center strike or incomplete impression due to insufficient striking pressure, the resulting coin becomes visually striking and highly unique, and all of these error types discussed individually can produce high-value numismatic treasures. But the legendary 1978 quarter that collectors talk about in speculative circles is imagined as a coin that features several of these anomalies. Layered together, meaning an off-metal planchet, a rotated double strike, a massive reverse cut, a visible die clash outline across Washington's jawline, and an experimental die polish pattern that creates unusual surface texture. And when such an impossible combination is imagined, even hypothetically, collectors estimate its value in the millions purely based on rarity, desirability, and the intense competition that surrounds unique mint errors. And while no certified auction record confirms the existence of a $16 million 1978 quarter, the world of numismatics thrives on discovery, speculation. The next 1978 quarter-dollar USA coin today, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, fascinating, and mysterious stories in the entire world of rare coins. A story that blends numismatic curiosity, minting anomalies, collector frenzy, and the wild possibility that a small piece of metal you could find in everyday change might actually be worth an amount of money so astonishing that it defies expectations. Because today we're talking about a 1978 quarter dollar that has been reported, speculated, rumored, and theorized to have reached a staggering estimated value of $16 million due to a combination of errors, mistakes, rare minting mishaps, and improbable circumstances that make it one of the most sought-after coin oddities ever imagined. And as we explore this topic, you'll hear the layers of mystery, the technical side of minting, the wild possibilities that arise when something goes wrong in just the right way to create an ultra-rare coin, the excitement collectors feel when searching through ordinary pocket change hoping to stumble upon a life-changing piece of history, and the extraordinary chain of events that could take a simple 1978 Washington quarter and turn into something worth more than a mansion, a luxury car collection, and a lifetime of savings combined, because people are endlessly fascinated by the idea that hidden treasures might be circulating unnoticed, waiting to be uncovered by an unsuspecting person who might pick up a coin from the ground or from a store counter without realizing that it possesses unusual quirks, microscopic details, or eye-catching anomalies that set it apart from millions of others. And to understand why the 1978 quarter in particular can give rise to stories of immense value, we first need to appreciate how coins are made, how mistakes happen, how specific errors transform everyday coins into extraordinary rarities, and how the numismatic world evaluates unusual finds. Because in 1978, the United States Mint was using older equipment approaching the end of its life cycle, which means slight inconsistencies, die overlays, planchet issues, and metal composition irregularities were more likely to occur. And although millions of quarters were struck that year, the tiny handful bearing undeniable minting errors have become legendary among collectors who believe that certain specimens could command shocking prices at auctions, especially those displaying multiple overlapping errors, combined with pristine condition, unusual metals, or characteristics linked to experimental minting practices that may have been quietly tested during transition years. And the 1978 quarter at the center of this discussion is believed to exhibit a mesmerizing combination of die cracks stretching like lightning bolts across George Washington's profile, doubled edges that produce shadow-like impressions around the letters and numbers, off-center striking that shifts the entire design slightly to the side while still preserving a full date, and an unexpected planchet anomaly that may result from being struck on a transitional metal blank not intended for quarters at all, which is where intrigue deepens because transitional errors are among the rarest types of mint mistakes. often resulting in coins struck on copper-nickel planchets meant for different denominations, or in some rare cases, leftover silver planchets that somehow found their way into the striking chamber, producing hybrid coins that should not exist and therefore become holy grail discoveries for collectors. And although the 1978 quarter is widely known to be a simple copper-nickel clad coin, the existence of even a single anomaly involving a leftover experimental planchet, a foreign coin blank mistakenly used, or a mixed metal composition could instantly transform its value, because metal composition errors are nearly impossible to replicate and typically occur due to extremely isolated minting accidents. And when collectors talk about the possibilities surrounding a multi-million-dollar 1978 quarter, they often imagine a specimen combining several spectacular mistakes all in one coin, such as double-die obverse errors, where Washington's profile appears slightly doubled, creating ghost-like outlines around his features, or reverse doubling that makes the letters quarter dollar or United States of America look thicker and shadowed, plus die rotation issues where the front and back of the coin are misaligned by several degrees, giving the coin a twisted orientation that can be instantly noticed when flipping it. And of course, the ultimate jackpot scenario involves a major off-metal strike where the entire quarter is struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps on one intended for a $half or a foreign coin used in international minting contracts during that era, because the U.S. Mint occasionally struck foreign coins for other countries, and mix-ups did sometimes happen, creating genuine oddities that leave collectors stunned for decades. And if such a coin also revealed evidence of planchet clipping, where small crescent-shaped pieces of metal are missing due to overlapping punch sheets, the combined effect would create a coin that is not only visually striking, but also historically unique. And the market for coins that are singular in their existence has demonstrated time and time again that collectors are willing to spend enormous amounts of money for something that will never appear twice, especially when its origin involves mysteries and anomalies that experts can debate for years. And the mystique only increases if the coin somehow remained in circulation long enough to be discovered randomly, which fuels speculation that more of these rare coins might still be out there hidden in piggy banks, cash registers, vending machines, or old jars in people's homes. Because the dream of finding a rare error coin is one of the most compelling aspects of numismatics, turning everyday pocket change into an exciting treasure hunt where each coin inspected carries the faint possibility of life-changing value. And when enthusiasts talk about a 1978 quarter worth $16 million, they conjure up a scenario where everything that could possibly go wrong in minting went wrong in a way that produced artistic, mechanical, and metallurgical anomalies all present in a single remarkable specimen, the kind of coin that showcases doubled inscriptions, broad-struck, spreading with no visible rim, wrong planchet composition with unexpected weight and metallic resonance, misaligned dies causing warped facial features on Washington, struck through debris impressions leaving ghost patterns embedded into the metal surface, faint cracks forming branching patterns along the coin's fields, and even lamination errors where thin layers of metal peel or bubble, suggesting chemical inconsistencies in the planchet itself. And numismatists spend countless hours examining such anomalies under microscopes, comparing known varieties, analyzing reflectivity patterns, studying how light interacts with raised details, and identifying whether a given anomaly was caused by the minting process, by post-mint damage, or by natural wear, because true mint errors have distinct characteristics that experts learn to recognize. And when a coin exhibits multiple certified errors confirmed by professional grading services, its value multiplies exponentially, especially if the coin remains in high-grade condition with lustrous surfaces and minimal scratches or contact marks. And this combination of extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, historical mystery, and immaculate preservation is what drives the theoretical value of the infamous 1978 quarter toward that monumental $16 million figure often mentioned in collector circles. And while such a value might seem unbelievable at first glance, the upper tier of numismatic markets has shown repeatedly that private collectors will pay extraordinary sums for rare artifacts, especially those representing impossible odds, remarkable beauty, or unmatched singularity. And if a quarter from 1978 were discovered that contained a never-before-seen collection of minting errors so dramatic, so layered, and so improbable that no other example exists, it would instantly become a symbol of minting history and collector obsession, inspiring documentaries, auction wars, and media coverage because high-profile coins have sold for millions before, such as famous double eagle pieces, rare overdate coins, off-metal transitional strikes. The last 1970 quarter dollar today, as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, mind-bending stories from the world of rare coins, a realm where the ordinary suddenly becomes extraordinary and where a simple pocket change discovery can transform someone's life forever. And today we're exploring the fascinating tale of the 1970 quarter dollar that collectors claim could reach the staggering value of $16 million because of its extremely unusual errors, strange production anomalies, and the astonishing possibilities behind how this rare coin came to exist. And as we journey through this story together, you'll see how something that seems so common, so ordinary, and so familiar as a quarter minted more than 50 years ago can suddenly take center stage as one of the most mysterious, talked about, and potentially valuable coins in the numismatic universe. And the excitement begins first with the idea that any coin, especially one minted in 1970, could carry a value far beyond its face value. But what makes this particular 1970 quarter stand out is not just the date or the typical minting qualities we see on millions of quarters produced each year, but the strange layers of mistakes, overlapping design remnants, minting anomalies, and other puzzling details that push collectors into a frenzy, creating theories about how such an unusual coin could ever leave the mint. And even though coins with mint errors are not uncommon, the magnitude and combination of errors on a 1970 quarter rumored to be worth $16 million is so extreme that coin enthusiasts around the world view it as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, something so rare that it seems almost mythical. And part of the allure comes from the story that some of these rare 1970 quarters were struck over previously existing coins, possibly foreign coins that the mint used as experimental planchets or leftover stock, which carries with it an entire new layer of intrigue, because a coin struck over another coin produces ghost images, doubled or tripled features, strange metal warping, off-center impressions, misaligned details, or faint remnants of words or numbers from the underlying host coin. And these traces of the earlier coin create a kind of numismatic fingerprint that cannot be reproduced intentionally without advanced equipment, giving the coin a mark of authenticity that fuels its legend even more. And collectors who examine such pieces under magnification report, finding bizarre shapes and patterns that don't belong on any standard quarter, making them speculate that the underlying coin could have been from a totally different country or denomination. And as these theories spread through the collecting world, the value estimates begin to climb, with some collectors insisting that if the underlying coin was rare or historically important on its own, and if the 1970 quarter was perfectly aligned in such a way that the original design and the new quarter design overlap in visually impressive ways, the coin could become priceless in the eyes of the right buyer. And this idea of a coin being struck over an older or foreign coin has historical precedent because the United States Mint did occasionally repurpose leftover planchets or test coins, though it was extremely rare and usually kept under tight control, which adds to the mystery because if such a 1970 quarter escaped the mint with clear, undeniable evidence of being struck on top of another coin, especially a coin with identifiable features, that escape alone represents a massive minting error that collectors consider nearly impossible, and therefore incredibly valuable. And beyond the host coin theory, collectors describe numerous other strange features such as dramatic doubling on letters, unexpected dates faintly visible in the background, misaligned edges, bizarre metal textures, and even anomalies in the rim that suggest something unusual happened during the striking process. And when collectors see such signs, they begin constructing entire possible timelines of how the coin journeyed from the minting machinery to ending up in public circulation, imagining that perhaps a mint worker accidentally or intentionally ran an experimental strike through the press, or that an old coin used for calibration somehow slipped into the batch being minted for public release, or that an extremely rare minting accident occurred during the preparation of the planchet, causing the metal to bond irregularly, producing distortions that cannot be found on any other coin. And with each new theory and each new visual anomaly discovered, the coin's legend grows, generating more curiosity, more speculation, and more excitement. especially when collectors start comparing photographs, magnified images, and high-resolution scans that seem to show hidden symbols, faint outlines of foreign characters. Unexpected dates like 1941 or 1968 barely visible under the 1970 design, or strange textures that look like remnants of older engravings. And even though only a handful of people have ever claimed to see such coins in person, the descriptions alone are enough to drive the perceived value into astronomical territory. Because in the world of rare coins, uniqueness is everything, and a coin with overlapping eras, designs, and unexplainable features is considered the holy grail of minting errors. And part of the speculation around the $16 million figure stems from the idea that if a collector with deep pockets, someone who values rarity above all else, were to compete with another collector equally obsessed with acquiring a once-in-history piece, the bidding war could push the price into unimaginable territory, especially if the coin's provenance is well documented, showing that its strange features have been authenticated and recognized as genuine mint errors rather than post-mint tampering. And the mere possibility of such a coin existing has energized the numismatic community because it means that everyday people might unknowingly have fortune-changing treasures hiding in jars, drawers, garages, or old piggy banks. And this idea alone creates a frenzy, inspiring millions of people to check their quarters, especially those for 1970, hoping to find overlapping dates, strange engravings, odd textures, off-center strikes, misaligned rims, or unusual coloring that might point to a similar anomaly. And the excitement grows even more when rumors circulate about collectors paying huge amounts for coins with even partial traces of errors, meaning that a quarter showing a ghost image or doubling effect could still bring thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And this creates an environment where hope and curiosity join together, encouraging people to inspect every 1970 quarter they can find. And even though the exact details of the alleged $16 million quarter remain mysterious and debated, the story lives on because it represents the ultimate dream. The idea that something so ordinary, so easily overlooked, could suddenly reveal itself to be a multi-million-dollar treasure because of extraordinary circumstances during its creation. And the more people imagine the minting process, the heavy machinery, the dies smashing into the metal planchets, the possibility of an already struck coin slipping into the process, or a foreign coin being caught in the striking chamber, or a planchet with unexpected composition creating rare metallic features, the more the story takes on a life of its own, becoming a mix of history, mystery, speculation, and pure excitement that fuels the imagination of collectors everywhere. And even though most 1970 quarters are worth face value, the fascination persists because the possibility, however small, that a one-of-a-kind coin could exist keeps the legend alive, encouraging people to learn more about mint errors, inspect their change, appreciate the history behind each coin, and stay engaged in the thrilling hunt for rare treasures hiding in plain sight.